Now, two pigeons bemoaning the fact you can stream DirecTV satellite-free.
These humans can stream all the top-rated national news channels on DirecTV, and now with no satellite dish.
This just in. Weather, sports, election coverage. DirecTV has it all, but something is missing. The satellite dish.
What are you doing?
I'm reporting the news. Back to you, Bob.
Here's some news. You're a buffoon.
Stream the top-rated national news channels. No satellite dish. Visit directtv.com. Internet required. Top-rated news based on 2023 Nielsen ratings.
ABC Thursdays.
Welcome back.
Grey's Anatomy is all new.
Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant?
The drama going down
Bungee jumping from the bridge, his cord snapped.
We need all hands on deck.
is unbelievable.
You think you're God's gift to this hospital?
You're just another doctor.
My relationship with Catherine is complicated.
I'm gonna sue you.
Your lawyers know where to find me.
You're unbelievable.
Grey's Anatomy. All new Thursdays, 10, 9 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Banterly, the Gen Z podcast about pop culture and media. My name is Aidan.
And I'm Suha, and welcome back. I've been scrolling on TikTok a lot, and there's this new trend. I don't know why we're so obsessed with giving everything like character type labels, but like the hot rodent boyfriend trend that has emerged.
Hot rodent boyfriend or a sexy rat man. They're one and the same. If somebody comes up to you and says, "Hello, sexy rat man," they're also calling you a hot rodent boyfriend.
Yeah, so these are what they look like. These are some of the features. They're svelte.
Yes.
Angular features and bodies.
Not necessarily conventionally handsome, which makes them even hotter.
And I'm like trying to think of who falls into that category. I think the newest entrant into that category has been Josh O'Connor.
From Challengers.
I know him from The Crown. I know and love him from The Crown. He's the only reason I've ever had sympathy for King Charles. It's because he played him. Yeah, like this whole category, I don't know. It's kind of like, I get it, but I also don't. Because I think it's so embarrassing to attach. I would never want to call someone I'm with a rodent and be proud of that, you know?
I get it, because there are all those memes before this rodent boyfriend became a term of the main character from Flushed Away, and people being like, this is what all of your boyfriends look like. And they're not wrong.
That's how I feel about Maddie Healy, who I dislike for so many other reasons, but also because he just looks the way he does. And it's like the sewer rat from Flushed Away.
Exactly. I think that's a perfect description, because some people do have rodent features. I don't think that's a negative or a positive, but some people, they do have rodent features. I've met a few people with rodent features in my day. It's not a bad, like some people have they're more bird-like, you know? Like, you know? I stand by this. I don't think it's a bad thing. Would I want to be called a rodent? I don't know, but a lot of the people on the list are like, people love them. Like, and also the other guy from Challengers, Mike Feist, is also on the list I've seen. And Timothée Chalamet's been on the list. In the list I saw, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's a lot to sit with. But yeah, what else have you seen in pop culture, I guess?
I've talked about this before, but I became obsessed with a TV show called The Traitors a little bit ago. A bunch of reality stars come together, compete. You have people from Housewives, Bachelor, Big Brother, all around the map. And they just announced the cast for season 3. Let me tell you the standouts from my perspective. There's 5 housewives. Ones that stick out, Dorinda Medley. Love Dorinda from Real Houses in New York. We have Dolores Catania from New Jersey. Robin Dixon from Potomac. I personally think Robin's boring, so maybe she'll spice it up for this. But some other people. Britney Spears' ex-husband.
What?
Sam Asghari is going to be on it. He's literally only famous for being married to Britney Spears for a minute.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Also, Tom Sandoval from Vanderpump Rules, the Scandival that rocked the world last summer, and Chriselle Staus from Selling Sunset, and Zac Efron's brother. So there's going to be about 20-ish people that all live in this Scottish castle together, and it's going to be Britney's ex and Housewives, and Zac Efron's brother. So I'm so excited for this next season. At first I was like, what's this cast? But after thinking about it, no, it's going to be good. It's going to be
It
good.
sounds exciting. It sounds very... I might have to tune in. I love watching famous adjacent people do things because they just have an arrogance that not even famous people have. And I love that. I think it's so fun to watch.
Exactly. Like, your neighbor's dog sitter knew someone who was an actress. They're walking around like they own the town. But in other exciting news, besides the Traitors season 3 cast, we have an exciting announcement. Immigrantly Media has come out with a new podcast called Nationally. It's our new elections podcast. It launched early June, and it's focusing on the elections and what the immigrant and minority communities around the country, what they care about in certain key states. We're talking Michigan, Arizona, Pennsylvania. So you can go to wherever you listen to podcasts and listen to our first episode, which is out now.
I'm Juan Diego Ramirez.
And I'm Sarah Sadwani.
And this is Nationally.
Who's spearheading the uncommitted movement in Michigan?
What key issues are driving the Latino support in Arizona?
Why is Gen Z stepping up to run for office in Georgia?
These are the questions we're asking on Nationally, a limited series podcast for Immigrantly Media, launching June 6th. Join us on Nationally, where every story counts and every voice matters.
Wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting one. And that kind of leads us into the question of the day and the general topic of today's discussion. Aidan, what's a memorable moment you remember in politics?
Let me think on this. Okay, I've thought. The 2020 election, November 2020. At this point in my life, just to set the stage, still very much pandemic era. I fortunately got to escape St. Louis with my friend who also went to college in New York, and we were doing remote classes from St. Louis. You know, that was okay. But for 1 month, we got an Airbnb in Chelsea and we lived together, and we got to escape our homes and experience the city for a month sophomore year. And during that time was the election, the 2020 election, Trump versus Biden. And then we were there in New York for when Joe Biden won. And I have never experienced such energy and magic in this city before. I remember we walked outside and everybody was banging their pots and pans outside of their window. I went to Washington Square Park and it was just so electric and vibrant, and everybody was just so happy that Trump was no longer going to be president. That was a beautiful day, and I'm so glad I got to experience it in New York City, of all places.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How about you? What's a memorable moment for you?
I think when President Obama was elected for his first term in 2008.
11 p.m. on the East Coast. We're back on the air, and we have news. There will be young children in the White House for the first time since the Kennedy generation.
Barack Obama, in our view, President-elect of the United States of America.
Yeah, it was such a weird day to kind of just be in class and not really grasp what that meant. Because at this point, the only president who'd been around in our lifetimes would have been Bush. And I didn't really know, I was 7. A bush was a type of plant. That's it. And so it was told to me that it was historic, and I kind of believed them. But then my teacher was like, what does this mean for people like you? And I didn't know what that meant. And I realize now it's because he had a Kenyan Muslim father, and I'm also East African and Muslim, that she kind of was like, you must specifically take this as a broad historic win. And I didn't care. But I do remember the moment.
At 7 years old, duh. Why would you ask a 7-year-old that?
Yeah, I did not care.
Yeah.
I simply, I did not care. And so I do remember that day. And it was historic. It was cool to see that in class, but not really with the commentary from my teacher. But it is what it is.
I remember that day too. I remember watching the inauguration in 2nd grade. They projected it on. I was like, wow, it was that's so true. It was our first introduction. All the other elections I remember Mr. Mitt Romney. I remember Hillary in 2016. That was a sad day.
That one was a tough one. I remember that one. Oh, God. My school felt like...
It was somber.
Yeah, that was a weird day.
We had a mixed bag in my school. There were some people who were like, "Rah," and some people were like, wow.
Oh, we had that too. Yeah, like some kids pulled up in a pickup truck with 4 Trump flags attached, and the rest of us were like, can you read a room? Like, can you... I don't know. But, that leads us into today's episode. We're talking politics. We're talking election season, but most importantly, we are talking about Veep. In my opinion, the greatest show of the 21st century.
Politics is about people.
Politics is about people. I've met some people, okay, real people, and I got to tell you, a lot of them are idiots.
Yeah, we talked about it in your first episode that we both love Veep. For anybody who hasn't seen it, it takes place over 7 seasons, and surprisingly, all 7 seasons are amazing. It wasn't like Glee that fell off after season 3. I will always bring back Glee.
That's an interesting comparison.
But it follows Selina Meyer. She is vice president in season 1, and it's just a little sitcom that follows her and her staff through her political journey in Washington, D.C. And it's flippin' hilarious.
Dan, did your boyfriend know anything about this?
I was trying to use Jonah for intelligence.
That's like trying to use a croissant as a fucking dildo.
I thought that...
No. Let me be more clear. It doesn't do the job, and it makes a fucking mess.
I reserved Veep as my airplane show when I first started watching it. I was like, short episodes, 10 episode seasons. I'll watch this on a plane. They were easy to digest. I was LOLing. And then after a while, I was like, wow, Aidan, this is a good show. This is a really good show. Why am I just watching this when I'm in an aircraft, which is not super duper often? So I just started just plain old watching it. And I think I finished it all last year or within the past year and a half. But oh my gosh, so good.
It really is. Like, I watched it in full for the first time when I was in college. And luckily the show had already been entirely out. And that was like, I sat down and truly watched it that time. But then I just finished a rewatch of it last month. And that was more of that kind of like, it was kind of background noise. It's just become a comfort show where when I'm like, I cannot eat a meal without having something to entertain me. I don't know what that says about me as a person, but I always will go to Veep if I don't want to think about what to watch because it's just so, I'll always laugh and it doesn't matter where it picks up. I'll always enjoy it. And you don't need to know anything.
It's so easy to watch. I'm not a super political person, but I watched it and I understood it and I got it. Like, it's not like watching, I don't know, one of those dramas.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you don't know a lot about politics, it's so interesting that a lot of DC staffers or people who do work in politics have since come out and said that Veep is like the most accurate show they've seen of their day-to-day in DC or in the policy world compared to shows like West Wing or House of Cards, which are those serious dramas that you'd expect are more accurate, which is it's interesting to say the least.
It's frightening a little bit.
But yeah.
A little frightening. Like I said, Veep was 7 seasons long, so obviously we didn't watch all 7 seasons this past week to talk about it, but we decided to choose 2 highly rated episodes, Helsinki, which is season 2, and then Kissing Your Sister, which is in season 5. How'd you like Helsinki?
Oh my God. I just love the back and forth between Selina and Minna so much. And I think I'd read somewhere too that like a lot of their discussions tend to be improv by the 2 actresses, which
That's
is incredible.
amazing.
Like, they'll literally just roll the camera and let them like talk. So like, I think the whole Angry Birds thing is probably one of the funniest exchanges she has with another political leader in the entire show.
We also have a gift for you of famous Finnish birds.
Oh my goodness. Oh my. Oh, I have it. Thank you. What a lovely clock with an unusual bird.
The angry birds.
of being like, what is this clock of an angry bird you gave me? And Minna being like, this is our most successful export. Yeah, it's so funny.
That prime minister is one of my favorite characters, I think. I didn't know that most of it was improv. That adds another layer for me, but she's just so funny. And she's the type of person or the type of character that it's not outwardly like, oh, cracking jokes. It's just her personality. Like when they first met and Selina was like, oh, you can call me Selina.
Madam Prime Minister.
I am delighted to welcome you to Finland.
Thank you. And please call me Selina.
Selina?
Yes?
Excuse me?
What?
Shall we begin?
Oh, yes. Yes. Would you like to lead the way?
Yes. Would you like to go first?
Oh,
no,
we can
go together.
In tandem? We shall go.
Yes.
She just calls her name.
She's so funny to watch.
She is.
But she's one of those characters that if you ever interacted with her in real life, I think you'd be like struggling to not pull your hair out like one by one because you're so aggravated by her. She comes back throughout the series. So I think this episode is such a good intro to a character like her. And so, yeah, like the episode starts with them on a plane to Finland, where Minna is the prime minister, kind of coming off some backlash of a song from earlier episodes that Selina made making fun of Europe, to the point that European journalists were calling her, quote unquote, Europhobic and asking questions to her and her interim communications director, like, would you ever say that about other parts of the world? And yeah, like a running joke throughout the whole episode is that Dan, the interim communications manager, just has to keep going back to journalists and apologizing over and over, which I think is so fun to watch.
Here we go. Ken's given Barbie the slip.
Okay, guys. To those who may have misinterpreted the song, we to them offer apologies, especially our most gracious host, the Prime Minister of Finland.
My favorite part of the episode was when the prime minister's husband grabs Selina's boob when they're doing a smoke break. That whole little mini storyline arc within the episode was just so well done. He groped her, but like well done.
yeah.
Like Julia Louis-Dreyfus, is it Julia or Julie? Julia Louis-Dreyfus is phenomenal. I never saw Seinfeld, but she's so talented, and watching her act after the groping scene and watching her bagman Gary react, and he's so protective of her, and oh my gosh, it was just comedy gold.
I love it so much because Selina Meyer is not a girl's girl, but after experiencing this, she's kind of like, she's trying to be almost, where she's suddenly like her and Amy towards the end of the episode, like
champion women's rights out of nowhere.
Yeah, they're like, whoa, we have no power. It's like, I think she says it's like the axis of dick is the power axis in which they live. Like you said, Gary reacts like saying that the grope was like a sexual 9/11 or Cuban Missile Crisis at least.
Osmo groped me.
Shit. Yeah. We need to rain down the full might of our nuclear arsenal on Finland.
That's the other thing I forgot to tell you. We're going to blow up Finland.
It's so good. So underrated. Like, oh my God. It's so
good.
It's just like so many one-liners. That's what I think stands out about a show like Veep, is that like you don't need a whole story to sell one joke. Like it's the punchline comes and goes, and if you blink, you've missed it, which makes it
like
so
they're
fun.
So quick, and the way that they deliver the jokes, you almost don't think it's a joke. Like sometimes in sitcoms, they deliver it, and there's like a laugh track or they pop, but here it's like, oh, that was a joke, but I just thought he was can fly over your head really quickly, and that's why I'm sure it's fun for you to watch it. Have watched it all the way through twice, that I'm sure you pick up on things that you didn't notice the first watch. I know I did that when I was watching these episodes back.
Yeah, like you're like, oh my God, I didn't even catch that was like maybe an ongoing joke, or I didn't appreciate. Like for me, it's in this episode, it's how Gary reacts when Selina wants to take smoke breaks, because I think that goes to the overprotective thing you mentioned of like he's literally trying to police a woman who's like in her 40s or 50s to convince her to not smoke cigarettes.
And the scene at the end when they're in the plane and she's coughing and he's like, he looks at her, he just gives her a look. And that was just amazing. He didn't say anything. He just looked at her.
One of the best lines, I think, in the entire show comes from this episode where, like, I think she's looking back at, maybe she is looking back at Gary when he's telling her to not do a smoke break, and she says, "Oh, don't give me that Quaker in a titty bar look."
Yes.
Like, where do they come up with these things? It's so funny.
But the other episode that we decided to talk about, Kissing Your Sister, totally different vibes because it's all sort of documentary style because Selina's daughter, Catherine, she's making a documentary for herself and just a behind the scenes. And at this point in the show, there is a vote in the House. I didn't watch a whole lot before it, but Selina became president because the president, he stepped down.
He resigned because the running joke for that was that his, like, the first lady had to be put on, like, suicide watch. So not funny, but they made it into a joke. And so Selina becomes president. And this is in an election year. So she really gets only 8 months of being president before she's up for election. But then her and her opponent tie in the Electoral College on election night. And so then it goes to the House to vote on who they want as president. And yeah, it's never happened. And it likely will never happen in real life. I think as much as I love the show, this is where it starts to get a little out of reality. And that's totally fine. But this is, I think, that big mark of like, oh, they tie on election night. Okay, let's see that actually happen.
Hey, we're in election year this year. You never know.
I mean, I guess it could.
So the whole episode is just kind of the behind the scenes of that whole trial from Catherine's perspective.
Catherine is just like the saddest character. And she's so funny unintentionally. I love when they write characters like this who don't really deliver the one-liners, but are kind of either the expense of the joke or are unintentionally funny because, like, it's what's happening to them is sad. Yeah, I just think it's such a fun episode. Like, filming from Catherine's side. Like, I love the little clip of her right towards the beginning of the episode doing her, like, experimental dancing or whatever.
Catherine, would you please give it a rest with that camera?
My name is Catherine Meyer. I've spent my entire life in the public eye. While the public will always remember me as the little girl who fell off the stage twice in one evening, I'm a grown woman now with my own passions and interests.
She's like, you might know me just as the girl who fell off the stage twice on election night, but I'm like a real person.
I feel like she's such an archetype going to Vassar and going like she's like the politician's child. Like you were raised in a wealthy household and you're trying to be a little bit different, but she's nice. But she's like has a good heart and she's not like a spoiled little brat until she gets all the money and then starts paying Selina every month. I feel like we're diving too deep into these little plot points, but it's so fun to talk about.
I know.
Because I feel like I don't talk about the show enough. You mentioned about when we were talking about Kissing Your Sister that it kind of got a little bit out of reality with the tie break and the second tie break, but watching it recently and especially seeing a lot of discourse online about how Selina Meyer is like our current vice president Kamala Harris, seeing all those trending videos of Kamala Harris on TikTok, whether it's the wheels on the bus or you think you fell out of a coconut tree.
Everything is in context. My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
You exist in the context. We all know the rest.
Oh, it's so good.
But every time I see one of those videos, I see comments and it's like, she is Selina Meyer. This is so Veep. And it's true. And The Daily Show actually did a little montage of comparing Selina Meyer quotes with Kamala Harris quotes.
My fellow Americans, words have many meanings, and sometimes instead of conveying our meaning, they can suggest other meanings.
When we talk about the children of the community, they are children of the community.
Well, we are the United States of America because we are united. And we are states.
You can't make this stuff up. You can't write it. I think Veep introduced me to the way that the vice president job is kind of a joke, and not like it's very impressive. It's very important. But the running joke of Selina going into her office and being like, did the president call? And he never, ever calls because they don't have any interaction just shows. I wonder what if Kamala does that.
I know. And it happens later with Selina when Doyle becomes her vice president in that first term, where suddenly he's like, did the VP or did the president call? And like they have no line of communication, although she had like promised him and later Tom Jones that they would have roles in her administration. So it's just like this endless cycle. I think there's been commentary from the writers too of how difficult it is to write what they dubbed say nothing bullshit, which is that like we are United Americans, which is why we are the United States of America. But it also pulls back the curtain, I think, on US politics, right? Like for a lot of us, I think we feel very disconnected and thinking it's this high profile, well-oiled machine where everyone who's there should be there. Everyone who's there has a clear job. Yeah, it's not that
not
at all. And it just makes it fun. I don't know. It's funny. I like poking fun at people in power. And this show basically justifies a million different reasons why you could and should do that.
I agree. And I think now that social media is so prevalent that we get to see those inside moments of when people fuck up in the government. So it reminds me of recently when those videos in Congress went viral online of Marjorie Taylor Greene commenting on the Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's eyelashes, and then AOC jumps in, and then Jasmine Crockett responds calling her like your bad built butch body and all this stuff that is erupting in our national Congress. And you guys are elected officials and this is what you're talking about. But before, if that would have happened 40 years ago, like maybe someone would have written an article about it. We actually get to see it now. It's literally real life Veep. We are living in, or Veep is just real life, you know?
Politicians kind of love when we attribute like class and decorum to their jobs. But around the world, we just see that that's not the case. Like there have been multiple, I think, incidents around the world where people get into fights in different like parliamentary chambers. People are cursing each other out. Marjorie Taylor Greene has a habit of doing this, right? Like, and I think as soon as Rep. Crockett called her that, she went on Twitter and posted a video of her like working out in her home gym, being like, I'm not like, you're not talking about me, girl, or some kind of thing. And I just think it's so funny because it's one of those things where like you kind of laugh because if you think about it too much, you might cry because this is the reality in which we live.
Exactly. Laugh away the tears.
Do you have a favorite character? They're all kind of awful.
My favorite character, just based off them as a person, Gary. I think Gary, his heart was always in the right place. I think he really devoted his life to Selina, and she really did not reciprocate, especially in the end. And I feel really bad for Gary. But I also like Selina. I think there are few characters that are so, you can be like, oh, that's such a Selina Meyer. Like, oh, she's so Selina Meyer. Like, it's not like you're not going to be like, oh, such an Amy Bruckheimer. Selina's just, is that, oh.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think she's definitely like, she's such an interesting character. And I love that you're never really meant to root for her, but you can't help but like love watching her. Yeah, I think I feel that way about both her and Jonah. I'd say those are my two favorite characters, not because I particularly like align with them in any way or think they're good people, but they are such well-written characters and well-acted characters that you kind of just like can't take your eyes off of them in any scene that they're in, or kind of just want to watch more of them. But yeah, it's such a good show. I love Veep so much.
If you haven't seen it, you guys got to watch it.
Yes, you're missing out.
You are genuine. Like, I can't even stress enough how funny it is, but I think that we've stressed.
Yeah.
Let us know your thoughts on Veep, if you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, who your favorite characters are, what your thoughts are on the current election, all of the above.
Feel free to share your thoughts with us, Banterly at immigrantlypod.com, and engage with us on our socials at Immigrantly Media on Instagram and at Immigrantly Podcast on TikTok.
Banterly is produced by Shay Yu, written by us, the co-hosts Suha, Musa, and Aidan Taylor. The executive producer and editorial review is done by Sadia Khan.
Our sound designer and editor is Ben Allman. The Banterly theme music is by Simon Hutchinson, and additional music is by Epidemic Sound.
See y'all next week.
Awesome. Now I'm just gonna go watch more Veep.
No, me too.